cloud. So hello everybody, this is the April meeting of the Koha Consortia Special Interest Group. We have, as is usual, we don't have much of an agenda. What we have is available. I'll repost it in the chat box again, since I think we should just start this meeting like at 3 afters when everybody seems to pop in. So there's a link again to the chat in the chat box to the agenda. I put out the agenda last week and I said if anybody wants to add anything to it, and there was only, because as usual we don't really have anything, we just it's all driven by what you guys want to talk about. So the only thing that came into the agenda then was Chanel wanted to talk about best practices when a library changes its library code / name.
Well, I actually since got input from Bywater on that, so I'll tell you guys what I learned.
You'll tell us what the best practices are?
Yes. So there's two approaches. One is a mini project, which is where if you have Bywater change globally that code for you. And then there's the one that they recommend as being better, which is to set up a whole new library with a whole new set of circ rules and et cetera, and then move all your items and patrons off one to the other.
Yeah, changing the library name is actually easy. You just change the name. It's when you need to change the code.
Yeah, that's my problem, is that we have a library that is moving and completely re-identifying itself. So I need to change everything.
Yeah, I've done that approach where you just set it up and do it again. And depending on how many things you need to move, it's not too bad to do it yourself.
I recoded, we have 3 locations. We have adult, children's, and young adult. And I wanted the codes to be different. And we also have, so those are the 3 basic codes. But then I had some libraries that were using adult display, children's display, and it also included the name of the library that the display was at. And so those were locations. But all of our things, that's the way we determine whether it's an adult, children's, or young adult item is by the location code. And so I wanted all of the things that were adult. If it was payola adult display, I wanted that to all have the same unique piece in it that said adult. Because young adult and adult, when you do a SQL report and you just search for adult, you're also going to get all the young adult stuff. So I changed them all, and I did it. I had the same issue that you're talking about, where it's like, how do I do this? And it was the same thing. I needed to create a new location with the code that I wanted, and I needed to move all the things over to it, and it just took a lot of time. And I'm trying to do that too now. I've been working on doing the same thing with our item types. The item types are a little more complicated because there you have to also change circ rules. If you're going to change the code on an item type, you've got to, and there are special circ rules that go with that item type. Then you've got to update those circ rules to follow in with the new code. So
I have to say that although I do really like Koha, it really is not focused on for a large consortium. It you know, like if there was another large consortia asking me, would Koha be a good fit for us, I'd have to say no, because it's quite painful to do some of the administrative stuff.
for me, we were using Voyager at the library that we migrated to Koha from, and Koha was an improvement. Even with the drawbacks it has, it was an improvement over Voyager. So
that's a big ouch.
yeah, well, yeah, that could have been an alternative name for Voyager, the big ouch.
Yeah, I would tend to agree that Koha is not designed for like a public library, large public library consortium. For our consortium, because we have so many different
Yeah,
libraries as part of it, it's like the only thing that will work because it is built ad hoc. It creates a lot of opportunities, which is a mess administratively, but when you have lots of mixed libraries on the same system, having all that flexibility that's built in for all these boutique scenarios is really important.
I would go along with that too. Voyager was really difficult. One of the difficulties with Voyager was the idea of having academics, public schools, and public libraries all in the same group. Voyager was not built for that, and Koha wasn't either. But Koha, you can do was more customizable to that than Voyager ever was.
So we went from about, I think, 500 circ rules in Symphony to 6,500 circ rules in Koha.
Wow.
And that's just because there's a lot of at one library, this item type should allow this, but at other libraries, it should do this other thing. And so all those rules have to be duplicated across all of the other 58 libraries.
That was one thing that we have on purpose is we don't have that many item types and none of them are individualized to a specific location.
I wish I could have that luxury, but no.
Yeah.
I second the desire for that luxury.
I think it would, in that case, it would almost be easier. Do you have I forget what the name of the system preference is, the one that controls circ is it circ control?
Circ control, yeah.
So does circ control follow the library that you're checking out at, the library that the item is from, or the library?
The library you're checking out at.
I think in your case, it would almost be easier to have the rules follow the library that owns the item.
But it would be horrendous for our patrons.
Yeah. Yeah, I probably would. This is why it would be nice if you could group circulation rules, if you could say that this rule applies to these item types instead of individual item types at a time, if that drop down was a drop down with checkboxes instead of an individual item type.
Yeah, there is some grouping you can do. It just doesn't do what you just described.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's circ rules are a perfect example of you having so many options. It's administratively difficult to manage. I know one thing that we've done is we've put in some jQuery so we can hide a lot of those circ rules, so at least we can see it on one screen and then we can turn things off and on as needed. But that has actually helped a lot in just limiting the view so you're not doing the scrolling back and forth in addition to up and down.
Yeah, I added that jQuery as well.
I think George wrote the original one on that, but Lucas came up with something nicer in the last couple of years.
Is there a handy link to that somewhere? I'd probably be interested in that too.
I could probably just post it in the chat. Let me dig it up.
It's on the jQuery page. Let's see.
The Colorado update or my original? Because the Colorado update's got some neat stuff in it.
I'll find the code in a second here.
There's actually several that are very useful for that circ table, mostly by George.
And I don't know if mine is up to date for the most recent version.
The problem with yours, George, was every time, because it was counting spots every time there was like a new category, it would
Exactly.
up everything. So
And that's why yours, the one that Lucas wrote for you, is better because it doesn't
yeah,
have to.
you name the items which you want to hide and which you don't. So when there is something added, it's pretty easy. You
Right.
have just it doesn't screw up everything.
Right. It's not dependent on the position, but it's dependent on the. Yeah.
Yeah, if that updated code is someplace, I'd like to get that too.
Should have it in a second. We just have enough jQuery. I have to scroll and scroll.
I did put a spot in the agenda for the attendees to write down who was at the meeting, and I've been putting the libraries of where people are at, but I don't remember where everybody's from. So if you want to throw your information in the agenda, that'd be awesome.
So here is, I'm putting in the chat, this is the George's third version 3.0 of all the circ rule
Yeah.
modifications.
And we did a video on that too, I'm sure. But I wouldn't be surprised if that's out of date because it depends a lot on the part that's called pre-collapse specific columns goes by numerical position rather than by looking at the code in there, because when I originally wrote it, I didn't it seems like there was a reason I couldn't do that the way that Lucas did it. It's probably that table has changed. When I started working with Koha, that table in the circulation rules matrix was about 1.5 screens wide. Now it's like about 2 and an eighth. So I've got 3 monitors, and it will not, if you open that window and stretch it across 3 monitors, it goes about 4 inches onto my 3rd monitor, because so much stuff has been added over time.
I wish this had like table settings like every other table in Koha where you could
Yeah.
hide stuff by default and not show it at all.
Yeah, if it was the same kind of table, that would be, I wonder if there's a bug for that. Then we wouldn't need any of this jQuery crap.
There is a bug. 33312.
And it's push to master, right? Or is it still new? That's still
Right,
new.
not. It's new.
I gotta do this in 2 parts. Nope. Oh man, the chat on this is not allowing me to do hardly any text.
Yeah, it's also, it'd be better if you put it in like a paste bin link, because then it can be put in the YouTube chat easy. Otherwise, YouTube hates like brackets and stuff in it in the
Yeah.
in the chat.
If you go to
Or
I
the
put a
description.
link to Pastebin in there if you've never used it before.
I have not.
You don't have to do anything but paste your code and hit submit,
Yeah.
and then it should spit out a link.
Yeah, it should spit out a
Okay.
link that we can share.
No. Okay.
So I came in a little late to this conversation, but I see the bug that Jason posted about hiding columns that you don't use. And we're noticing when we're editing a rule, it's some reason transposing from one column into the other and automatically filling in like a date that we had empty. And so if the column was hidden, then we wouldn't see that it was setting that date or something, but it's a really, I don't know what's happened. I just put a bug into Bywater about it, but I think it's feeling like the no automatic renewals hard date in and clearing out the total holds or something like that. It's really weird.
Hmm.
But I don't know what, I would really love to be able to collapse or just sort by different columns too.
Sorting would be awesome. There are a lot of ways that could be better.
Mhm.
Like I said, I used to have my predecessors paid for a patch that would take the circulation rules from being a column this wide and make it like really super tall. It would condense all of it into one screen so that it would go a different direction. And a lot of the back end stuff that needed to go for that to happen was done, but the rest of it was too problematic, and so eventually we just gave up on it. So partly
And
because
these are,
I didn't care.
I mean, it's already a data table, so like it would just be a matter of them enabling some of that stuff.
Right.
So do you guys in your consortiums all have just one person who makes sure all those rules are good, or do you let the different libraries set rules? Because we just let libraries willy-nilly. I only set the rules for Rapid City. Sturgis only sets the rules for Sturgis. And so we just have to hope they all work together.
Yeah, we
We have it.
definitely do not do that.
Yeah.
It would be so nice.
We don't, because I don't know if it's possible yet to limit to just one, to being able to control just your own rules. When I worked in Idaho, we had like 6 people that could control the circulation rules. And naturally, one of them accidentally copied their library's rules to a different library using the clone button. And we ended up with having to spend, I mean, it took us hours to fix it because naturally they copied a library that had like 3 rules onto a library that had like 70 rules. And so recreating that rule set was a colossal pain.
That's one nice thing about having our test server kind of at an old set, you know, and so we can go back in and look and see what it was before somebody made changes.
Yeah, that, and I've got a report or two that allows me to to get the data out of the rules table from time to time to make a backup.
That's a good idea.
And Bywater can always, if you're a Bywater customer, they make backups regularly. So
I had something I ran across recently that I haven't really looked into it yet, but our consortium set up so that loan rules follow the item where it's checked out at. And so then I'm setting up a new branch and I'm trying to figure out notices for that. And I'm seeing that the way we have it set up, we're going to keep all of our Rapid City patrons as Rapid City patrons. They won't become Bookmobile patrons. And so their patron library makes a difference in some of those rules, even though it's following the library where it's checked out. And the one that I found today was that the automatic renewal notice goes out from the patron's library, not from the checkout library, which there's so many places where you can't quite tell where that's going to go until you try and test it out. And so I'm just wondering if you guys know of any other places where it's a little weird based on library versus the checkout library.
I'm not 100% sure. of any others. We don't use automatic renewals. I've had a couple of libraries interested, but then they never want to pull the trigger on it. There is a bug. Auto renewal notice does not use library specific notices.
Yeah, and that one
Um,
I think is just the main one, and then the digest does, so that's also another weird one.
Oh, okay. The bug that says auto renewal notice does not use library specific notice, that's been pushed to main. So that'll be in 2405, it says, and the bug is
Oh, that'll be good.
23296.
We had an issue. It doesn't come up very often, but like the patron's home library is here and they go down the road and check stuff out. And then they'll get one of the notices. It's not the auto renew notice. It may be like advance due or item due. And when they reply back, it comes back to their home library when they reply back rather than where they checked it out. And it seems like it didn't used to do that. But it's a weird situation that doesn't come up very often.
Yeah, and for us, those two, the bookmobile will be answered by the same email. But we do have people who go down to Sturgis and check things out. And so I don't think it's too often they would have that. So that's good to know.
So I've got something if we're in a lull. I'm about to offer test access to our Koha server to a couple of select staffers. And I was surprised to learn that I can't really protect their staff accounts from each other. It's not going to be so much of an issue with the testers, but when we go live, I have about 800, 900 people who need staff accounts, and it kind of feels like putting a bunch of kids in the backseat of the car and asking them not to hit each other. So I was wondering if anyone had any experience. Is it an issue? Is it not an issue? Am I worried about nothing?
Are you giving them all super librarian access?
No.
Okay,
know-
so what are you
Go ahead.
concerned about them doing?
So it looks like from what I've tested, I'm able to log in as one of these test accounts at a library, and I'm able to see the staff accounts of other staff members at that library, go in and edit it and do everything up to change the barcode and change the password.
Yeah,
As far
I mean,
as
you can edit.
oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, it seems like our staff have told me that they aren't able to change the password on other staff accounts.
Yeah.
But I think the worst thing we've had anybody do was change somebody's name to Darth Vader or something like that. So most of the time it's not a big deal, but it is something that's there.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it
Yeah.
looked like the password changed work, but I didn't actually take that second step and see if I could log in with that new password. So
And the permission might be toggled on that Jason just mentioned. So if you toggle that off, that'll protect the key parts of it.
oh, okay, yeah, that's probably a key piece.
So that'll probably fix most of it.
Thanks.
We have this concern with our prison libraries. Not necessarily on this particular issue, but because the clerks are all prisoners and they want to track the things that they're doing because sometimes they don't always do what they're supposed to. We put a lot of logs into reports that track who did what. So if it's a huge concern, you can do stuff like that. But my guess is that just having that permission off will probably cover the most important things.
Okay. Great.
Well, and I'm trying to find it. I think that there is a protected status that's being pushed through that would allow, and I can't find the bug for it, that would give the ability to put an account on a list that says nobody can edit this but certain people. Something like that, and I can't find it in Bugzilla.
Yeah, something similar to that is what I'm used to now. I'm coming from
Yeah,
Symphony, so it's just a checkbox.
That would be useful for like our SIP accounts that we don't want people messing around with too.
right. My trick with the SIP accounts, and I suppose this would work with staff accounts as well, is that I set up the SIP accounts so that they have to have a certain age, and the age is greater than like 100 years old or something like that. So when you try to, how did I set it up? I set it up so that there's an impossible bit of logic with the age, so that you can't create an account that has the proper age to to edit the account, or to save the account once you've made a modification. And then, so what you have to do is you have to go in and you have to, it's somewhere in the patron category. You have to set up this impossible situation that they can never be the right age to have an account created. And so when you need to create a new one, you have to go in there and change the patron category, create the account, and then change it back. But I have all of my SIP accounts in one patron category.
Yeah.
And that would probably be a way to do the same thing.
I do know that because we have accounts that we switched, they used to have be any age and now they have to be juvenile accounts. And so you can't, staff will pull it up and it won't let them save because the person's the wrong age. And I've found that you can go to the patron batch modification and edit the account, even though it has the wrong one. But I don't know how often that would happen.
I put that bug in the chat, by the way, talking about protected accounts.
Oh,
Thank you.
cool.
All that's useful.
Oh, and that says resolve fixed. What version is that in?
It's pushed in 2311. They also added an icon for it, a little lock icon that's pushed in 2305. So we can have the lock icon without having protected statuses. But we should get in the next version.
Yeah, that's awesome then.
Oh, and back on the topic of circulation and fine rules permissions, I just wanted to note that you can restrict it by branch, but like everybody else said, we don't. My community college has permission because she sets our due dates, but everybody else I manage.
Yeah, I knew that was coming and I didn't realize it was already in. So, but I'm still not going to give any of my people the ability to modify circulation rules because they just don't have the training. It would take, there are only a couple of libraries that would want that ability, and it would take some training to get them in there to know how to do it. But I'm certain that right now, if they just had the ability right now, that things would be messed up really quick. Any other things going on? Any other questions? I mean, it's whatever you guys want to talk about, Consortia related. I guess everybody's having a good week. Well, we can call it early if everybody wants to take off and go do something else. Or we can just sit here and stare at each other for another 29 minutes. I think I'd rather go do something else if we got nothing to talk about. As much as I like all of you. Has anybody submitted a really hot proposal to the conference? Is everybody planning on going? How's that going for everybody?
Jason has.
I think
I'm the only
Christopher.
one.
I think
Yeah, you,
planning I'm planning on coming, but our nearby city has the motorcycle rally the week before, and so flights out of here on that Sunday are like double the normal price.
oh no.
So I might have to come a little early.
I
yeah,
am
we've
planning.
almost. Go ahead, George.
I am planning on driving, so
We've nearly got everything locked in. We're just waiting to hear from a few people that are presenting that we expect to be there because some of them are on the board. Just haven't responded that they're presenting, but we should get registration open pretty soon here.
Christopher
I'm
submitted a
attending.
follow-up to last year's presentation that he and I did on notices. And I'm sorry, I talked over you there, Renee.
That's okay. No, we talked over each other. I'm attending, and I believe one of my colleagues is. Unfortunately, Mike's not coming. I'm really bummed about that. He has another obligation. So
Is anybody going to MPLA like in a week and a half in Salt Lake? I got
I think
roped
my
into that.
boss is going, maybe.
I got roped into that because Robin in the office next door to me is the MPLA president. She's trying to encourage everybody to go. So there is a Koha, Bywater is doing a Koha summit the day, the pre-conference day at Salt Lake City Public Library, I think. But I'm not going to that. I'm going to go check out the family history library at the Mormon Temple.
Oh, my presentation for the conference is also dealing with templates, but it's the reports template thing. So I'm planning on presenting on my little overdues printer thing, which I actually have testing in production now, which is exciting. And then I'm gonna talk about like statistical dashboards using the reports templates, which I need to start working on soon.
You start writing those reports, right?
Yeah, I have one that's sort of a start, but I haven't had time to work on it.
Well, I guess we should probably call it because I think we've run out of things to talk about. So it was good seeing everybody. We'll see y'all later. And I'm going to stop the recording.